Hey, everybody, this is Joshua Stevenson with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services.
And this is Darlene Zarko, also with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services.
What are we doing today?
We are talking and just
What's the name of this thing?
quips and tips.
There we go.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, hey, this is episode 2.
Mm-hmm.
So episode 1, I just made fun of your bad music choices and other essential real estate things, which was well, and and it was a great time, and I had a good time, having that first pod with you.
Yes.
Tell me, what are we doing today? What are we going to talk about?
I think today we're going to dive into the buyer process, starting it, kind of what it looks like, how you know when you're ready to buy ish,
Sure.
Are you really ever ready?
Yeah.
Just kind of what that looks like. It's a big chunk, so hopefully we can get through most of it today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and if we don't, we're gonna do this again. So we'll do a part 2 if we need to.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So Darlene, you've been in the industry, tangentially for your entire life, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, just talk a little bit about the buyer process, and I'll kind of ask some questions, and maybe we'll do it that way.
Absolutely. I think it's really scary, especially when you're a first-time home buyer.
Okay.
And I think it's a lot like a lot of the big things that happen in life. You never are quite ready for it, so you kind of just have to decide what's most important to you, because there's a lot of people that would rather wait until prices are low.
Sure.
And then there's other people that are like, I just want a house.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just want it now.
Yeah.
So it kind of just depends on what the type of person you are, if you're, what you're looking for also, and just kind of what fits your personal and family needs.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, when we think about the market, they're kind of like 3 drivers.
Mm-hmm.
It's competition, interest rates, and pricing.
Yep.
Right. And I like to say you can have 2 of the things kind of in your favor, or like in a positive direction at one time, but usually not all 3. Like if you have low interest rates and you have low prices, like you're going to have a lot of competition.
Yep.
Right. If you have low interest rates and moderate prices, again, you're going to have, lots of competition. The interest rates really do drive it. If you have higher prices and lots of competition, like, again, you're probably going to have lower interest rates. That's your one thing you can kind of get. And then if you have like high prices and high interest rates, what do you have? Well, not a lot of competition.
Yep.
So there's just kind of a little trio of factors that every person kind of has to understand when it comes to the markets. And right now we're kind of in a high price, high interest rate, low competition market here in Colorado Springs. And I think across the country, that's kind of what we're looking at.
Yeah, it seems that way. And I think, if you look at a couple years ago, we had the exact opposite, where
Right.
interest rates were historically low. Prices were, not bad. They were a little high, but they weren't bad. But
Yeah.
then your competition is ridiculous. Where
Oh,
you're
yeah.
having,
Thunderdome.
yeah,
Like Super Smash Brothers. We're all going to kill each other.
Exactly. So you have those people that are like, I'm not going to dump $100,000 into a house just to get it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to hand that to the seller. And it's like, all right, well, here's your prime market right now.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, and that buyer market was wild. And the weird thing is, like, cash was kind of king,
Yeah.
And the funny thing about the market right now is, like, cash is kind of king in some
cash
ways.
is always king, though.
Yeah. Well, what I mean is, like, in that market we had to do appraisal gaps and waive inspection conditions, blah blah blah. To go way over the market market price, and you needed cash to do that, right?
Right.
And that was the opportunity. It's like, hey, I have cash. This is the opportunity to get the home that I want at a good interest rate. The payment's going to be lower than it would be if it was a point or 2 points higher, right?
Right.
Well, now in the market, what do we have? We have assumable loans,
Yep.
right? We've got VA assumables, FHA assumables, conventional assumables. And what can help you get that house? Cash. Because there's some difference, usually some delta between what's owed on the property and the purchase price.
Yes.
And if you have, $80K in cash to make up the difference, well, yeah, you can get locked in at 2.5 and your mortgage rate's $1,500 a month, which is cool.
Yes.
So, we talk about buying environment. I did a market update recently. That's kind of where we are now. It's like, well, cash always, cash talks, money walks, kind of thing.
Yep.
Well, let's talk about a little bit the beginning of the buying process. And, you have a little firsthand experience right now because, this is very recent for you. You went through this. So what would you say is like maybe like 2 or 3 things a buyer, whether they're first-time buyer or, a veteran buyer, should have kind of in place before they start this process?
I think you need money, and you need a little bit of money in the bank. I'm very conservative when it comes to my money. So I'm the type of person where I need 6 months of my expenses in the bank account before I felt comfortable making that move and saying like, okay, I'm ready for this.
Yeah.
Especially being commission based in my
Sure,
work,
yeah.
it makes it 10 times scarier. But I've always been like that, even when I worked my 9-to-5 corporate job. So I think that's something really important. Like you don't necessarily need that kind of cash to buy. There are
Correct.
programs where you can buy for 3-5%.
Yeah.
You know, there's conventional programs with that.
And first-time homebuyer programs that do grants and
Exactly.
you know, silent second mortgages, things like that.
Exactly. So there's a lot of opportunities where you don't necessarily need that cash to purchase the home, but it's always nice to have it because then when, God forbid, your water heater breaks or like starts leaking, or when you get laid off and you don't know what you're going to do for the next month, like, you know, worst case scenario, you have that in place and you're not freaking out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the first thing that I always tell my people is like, do you have at least, I always say 3 to my clients because not everyone's as crazy as me.
Well, yeah.
But, you know, I just,
you're going to be okay if something bad happens.
Exactly. Yeah. But I just think that's like super important because I never want to put my clients in a position where they're calling me and saying, hey, I can't make my mortgage this month.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So yeah, having some reserves and banks like that too. If they say, oh, we've got, you know, 6 months in the bank, they feel a lot better about, you know, you moving forward and, you know, purchasing a large asset with their money. Right.
Yep. And I think the other thing you kind of have to look at is your credit score. Because obviously the higher your credit score is, the better your interest rate is going to be. I was talking to a lender here in town yesterday, and she was telling me that right now one of the biggest drivers is your credit score, especially when you're looking at conventional loans. So I waited till my credit score was over a 650 personally. And that's when I was like, all right, let's go.
Let's do it. Yeah. And, you know, on our, you know, my YouTube channel, it's connected with this, this video. I've got a video that we did with Ryan Yonke about credit and what are some things to think about. So, you know, when you think about credit, you want to have different kinds of credit. And I know credit's kind of like a 4-letter word in some financial circles, right? Pay cash for everything, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, okay, Dave, appreciate you.
But also don't do that.
Yeah. Well, it's just opportunity cost. You know, like there's different questions. Like, can you find other vehicles for your money to make 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% versus, you know, 2 to 3 to 4% traditionally in real estate? So I think there's some questions around those kind of things. But you want to have like multiple kinds of credit. So you want to have like a installment loan, right? Which is something like a car loan, or if you have a personal loan at a bank where you're making monthly payments, paying it down, that kind of thing. Like those are good like kinds of credit for you to have. You want to have revolving, which is like a credit card. I think that's a really good thing. Do you know the secret of like credit card utilization? Do you know about it?
Teach me, because my parents have always taught me something very different.
They say don't have credit cards?
No. They're pro credit cards, but my parents are the type of people that put all of their expenses on a credit
Yeah, that's
card
what I do.
and then pay it off every month.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah.
So what you don't want to do necessarily is pay it off every month. So they want to see somewhere between like 10 and 30% of usage. So let's say you have $1,000 limit on your credit card. What the credit agencies like is somewhere between $100 and $300 kind of like statement balances every month. Now, you can still like, you know, make sure you're not accruing a lot of interest. There's, you know, hacks around doing that kind of stuff, but they want to see like you're using your credit, like you're a responsible user of other people's money is kind of how I think about credit. So you want to have, you know, revolving, you want to have installment, you don't have any late payments, you know, obviously pay your stuff on time. And at the very least, you know, set minimum payments on all your credit cards if you have some. Like I have too many, but they're all set on minimum payments just in case I don't want to miss payments and things like that. All my other stuff, you know, my personal loans and installment loans are all set up on, you know, auto pay. Like this is just going to pay every single month.
Yep.
There's a neat app. Actually, Ryan, the lender here at 719 Lending, told me about it. It's called Self, and what it is, it's kind of a like a CD that you can buy, and you can put money into it over 10, 12, 24 months, whatever it would be, and that it counts as an installment loan.
Interesting.
For your credit. So to help like build your credit, you just make, you know, these $25 or $50 a month payments, and at the end of the term, that'll just pay you the money that you've put in, kind of pay you back for it. But it counts as like this credit line that you've got going on. So pretty cool. So we'd recommend that. We're not endorsing, no affiliate here. I have a referral code if you want though. I can get you that. Put it in the link. Put it in the description.
Yes, absolutely.
But that's another thing. So yeah, maximizing your credit is really important.
I think that's super important. And I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. That's actually a really cool product. Definitely going to be looking into that after
I will
this.
send it to you.
Thank you. Thank you. You share all the cool stuff with me.
I try to be a good resource,
You do a really good job.
Yeah, thanks.
You send me really cool
Well,
stuff.
so we've got, we got our kind of financial house in order. That's kind of the main thing, right?
Yep.
Savings, credit, those are important things. Job, obviously.
Yes, please. Yes.
And the thing on the job, right? You want to have at least 2 years either in the same job or in the same industry. That's what they'll look
Yes.
at, and lenders will look at that quite a bit.
Yep.
Again, that'll factor into that. For us, like commission people, it's a little more challenging to get loans sometimes, but
depressing.
it is. You do what you can.
Yes.
So once you've got your financial house in order, job, credit, savings, what's kind of the next step for you?
For me, that's typically when people call either me or my mom and they're like, hey, we're ready. What do we do? And then we send them to our lender.
Okay. Yeah.
We give them 3 options. We say, talk
Yeah.
to each one of them, see who fits.
Yep.
Because Charles said this once when I first started real estate, and I think it's really true. Real estate transactions are like dating, both with your real estate agent and your lender. You
Right.
guys have to fit.
Yeah.
You have to be a good fit because we're a team.
As the
So,
kids would say, you got a vibe, right?
Yes, you definitely have to vibe. If the vibe ain't there,
Are you proud of me for that?
I'm really proud of you. God, such a dad.
Oh, yes. Things are lit.
Oh God,
You got a
No.
vibe,
Stop at vibe. Stop at vibe.
Can we still say crunk? Is that still a thing that people say?
Older millennials, we say that.
Yes, let's go.
Gen Z will look at you like you're crazy. So
Well, they're all crazy people anyways, so I don't care what they think.
Gen Z is going to take over this world.
They're ridiculously awesome, but
I'm
ridiculous.
ready
so,
for it.
yeah,
I'm ready for
absolutely.
them to take over.
No, thanks. I'm not giving up the ghost yet. I'm going to be like the boomers, and just hang on until I'm 90 years old. So
No. Have you seen those TikToks where it's like Gen Z in the workforce?
yeah,
And
there's funny.
They're hilarious because it's like if I could have done that when I was 20, like I would be so mentally stable right now.
It's like I'm not going to do that thing.
Literally, they're like, that's beyond my scope of work.
Yeah.
Like I would never say
Those
that
are
to my
funny.
boss.
Those
I'd say
are
that
so
to my
funny.
coworker in the
Right.
next cubicle, but not my boss.
Yeah. It's like you're not paying me to do that.
Yes, that's above my pay grade. Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Yeah.
So we'll connect folks with lenders. We really like the local lenders. Obviously, the relationships that we build with them is critical in terms of communication, back and forth. But there are obviously other like kind of big box lenders that people can use. We like having local lenders.
Yeah.
It's good for.
Yeah, I think using a local lender is actually pretty important because they know our market. They
Right.
know when you tell them you're buying a house on Weber, they know exactly where it's
Right.
at.
Yeah.
They know exactly what the price point should kind of like they know. They know and they do business in this market every day. So
Right.
who better to give you a loan than somebody who knows this market?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So once they've, connected with you, we've connected them with the lender. What's the next step for that?
Usually the lenders I like to work with, that I'll recommend to people, they'll tell us like, hey, like you can afford this right now, but if you do these 3 things, it's going to up your credit score, it's going to get your DTI, your debt to income ratio down, and you'll be able to afford this much more. So typically like that's kind of when I go into mom mode and
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so here's your homework.
All right.
When you do step 1, call me,
Yeah.
then we'll do step 2,
Yeah.
then we'll do step 3, and then we can go look at houses.
Okay.
Because typically I send them what they can afford and they're
Right.
like, I don't
like that.
like that.
Yeah.
I want that. And it's like, okay, well, if you want that, this is what you have to do.
Right.
And there's a little bit of accountability for buyers. But I think
You're mean.
I'm not mean. I'm not mean. It's just if you're telling me that you want this beautiful house on a hill that's 6 bedrooms, main level living, like, you know what I mean? If you're telling me this is what your dream is, I'm going to do what I can to help you get there.
Of course. Yeah.
Or I'm going to tell you this is the reality of what you can afford. Pick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like options.
Yeah. Well, and I think our job, is advising, advocating for our clients and helping them make good decisions because, we do this all the time.
Yep.
Like we're in the grind of, hey, this inspection is due, this appraisal report is due, this, like all that stuff. And this is usually the first or second or third time they're doing this, but they're not doing it, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 times over a couple of years, over a year or whatever it would be. And so like we're the experts in the field. We help them navigate through decisions. We give them options, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's what you're talking about. It's like, hey, these are the options.
Yes.
If you want this is where we are. We can go do this thing. if you want this, this is what you got to do.
Yep.
And I like that. That's really awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, it's also like a conversation of like, you know, right now interest rates are high, but we can buy down the rate. If you wait, rates might come down, but prices are going to come back up.
Yeah.
Do you want to go back into, you know, what we were in the last few years? Like, you know, you kind of have to decide if you want to take that chance or not. And
yeah, and it is interesting to see, especially like in our market right now. I don't know if you looked at the stats for December.
When I looked, they weren't out yet. So.
Okay, so they came out today.
Okay.
Yeah, so take a look. But we're seeing some like really, I would say, stabilization.
Great.
You know, in the market.
I love that.
Versus like where we were, you know, last year versus this year, we're down a little bit, like December to December, year over year, both in median and average pricing. And so, okay, that's like we're coming off the bubble, right? We're coming off the peak. Had a little reprieve. I think it was October where we had a little bump up in both like pricing and things like that. But you know, year over year transactions were down 40%, you know, across the board. You know, down I think like 17% maybe, like year on year, something like that. So we saw that first part of the year kind of like it's keeping keeping the numbers looking, you know, at least reasonable. But you know, we came off that peak in June, and it's like, okay, things are different now. The buying process is different, but the environment's different, and so that's something we have to help navigate. Yeah,
and I think that's when, you know, right now is when we're starting to call our clients and be like, hey, like now is actually like a decent opportunity. You know, you can get a decent interest rate actually.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the 3% we were seeing a couple of years ago, but it's still affordable, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, the competitiveness, as you said, has gone down tremendously. So it's like let's get you your dream home. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got them like done their homework. They're kind of ready to start looking. You know, our process as realtors is we have a process of, hey, we want to get you guys, you know, signed to an agreement. Basically, that means we can represent you. That's important on, you know, I think about it as a consumer protection, right?
Right.
It's like, hey, here's all the things that I'm going to do for you as your agent, as your, you know, what we call a fiduciary, right? I have to have your best interests in mind. I'm like, not like the goal is not to get the transaction done. The goal is to get you in a place where you're comfortable with what's happening, right? And so, you know, we have our clients sign those documents, protecting themselves, you know, in the market.
Yes.
And then what happens after that for you guys?
Then we start looking at houses.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. Then we have the conversation of like, obviously we have it at the front end, but once you know how much you can actually afford and what your payment's going to look like and where you're comfortable, that's when I like to have that conversation again of like, okay, now you're dealing with real numbers. It's real life. It's actually happening. What are you comfortable with? What can we look at?
Yeah.
And then that's when I get on our nice little MLS that's so easy to use and user friendly, and I send you all the houses.
Can't tell if you're being sarcastic or not.
No, I actually really like MLS. I actually really like PPAR. I love your stuff.
That was funny.
Not shade.
No shade. No.
It is really user
It is really
friendly.
good. Yeah, I like it too.
Yeah.
No, it's nice. So you know, we set up searches, right, for criteria for our clients. Make sure, hey, it's this number of bedrooms, this number of bathrooms, this, you know, area or this sub area or this like subdivision or whatever they're looking for. And then what's after that?
Then we start going to look at homes, and you guys as buyers kind of get to see the houses in person and see, you know, they don't always look like the pictures, which is the hardest thing for my buyers to learn sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like, this looked huge in the pictures. Yeah, they were using a fisheye lens so they could show the whole room in a shot. So so sorry, but this is actually a 10 by 10, as it says in the description.
Agents, don't use fisheye lenses to take pictures of your listings, please.
But also no shade.
Yeah, that is shade. No specific shade.
No specific shade on anyone.
Yeah, no on anyone. Just as a whole.
Just in general.
Please don't use fisheye lenses.
Yes.
Darlene, don't use fisheye lenses.
You know what? I love my photographer. You recommended me my photographer.
I know I did. We can't say who it is. It's a secret. So
yes, it's top secret. But
DMs for the information.
Yes, if you guys are looking for a fantastic real estate photographer, let us know. Yeah. But then we start looking at houses. We start talking about like realistically, like which house is the one they want to make a move on. I think in this market, buyers are a little bit more apprehensive to actually make a move on something.
Yep.
Because they're like, it's only been on the market 7 days.
Right.
Can we wait 3 weeks and see what happens?
Sure.
And my response is, if it goes under contract between now and then, how are you going to feel about it?
Right.
And if the answer is devastated, let's not wait.
Exactly.
Because I as an agent, I can talk to the other agent and say, let's do it now instead of in 3 weeks, you know? So, and then we get under contract, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. And that process is fun and challenging kind of at the same time. So, you know, last year, the challenge was just getting under contract with buyers, right?
Yes.
If you had a listing, like, you're in pretty good shape. You had several, you know, put a listing on the market, maybe you get 10, 12, 15, 25, 30 showings over the weekend. Like you got 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 offers, you know, on the property. Then you got to sift through all this stuff.
Right.
For buyers, it was everybody's sitting on pins and needles. And like, we're going to get it, we're going to get it, we're going to get it. And no, usually not. Right?
Usually not.
No, because of the things we talked about earlier.
Yes.
But now it's like, you know, getting under contract still is challenging, but not for the same reason.
No, I think now sellers are having to change their mind frame, which is the hardest hurdle. Is like, at least from what I've seen, it's the biggest hurdle of sellers are like, well, no, I know what my house is worth. It's worth this. And it's like, well, the value of your property is what someone's willing to pay for it. And here's what they're willing to pay.
In a market, right?
Yeah. So I think that's the biggest hurdle now. And I think sellers are, you know, buyers are starting to ask for concessions and, you know, help with the down payment and stuff like that, or buying down the rate. Yeah. So I think that's the bigger hurdle now, is getting a seller to agree to that.
Yeah. No, 100%. Yeah. And, you know, been in some situations where it's like they don't want to. Yeah. But then what options do they have?
Exactly.
Maybe they don't have any. And so, you know, for our sellers, as we talk to them in this market, it's like, hey, you know, we need to understand, you know, kind of what your feelings about this, what you're willing to do. You know, we want to price and position accordingly, you know, in the market, you know, because I said this maybe last week, but, you know, before we'll use the club analogy, right? There were, you know, there's lots of pretty girls or lots of pretty guys in the club. And you kind of, you know, well, now there's lots of them. Before there was like one or two, and everybody's like fighting over the same person. So now it's like, well, there's lots of options, and with options comes delay in decision making, comes with like waffling sometimes, or, you know, regret, you know, that kind of thing. It's, there could be something better. And so for us, like, you know, counseling the sellers on that side, like, hey, this is the buyer mentality right now. It's like, this is how they're thinking. So you have to be aware of that. And then for the buyers, it's like, hey, like, decision fatigue is a thing. Like, if there's 15 options that you're considering, hey, we got to narrow that down to like 3. Like, what are your top 3? There's no reason to go see 10 houses that you don't really like, but they fit the criteria. Let's go see the best ones.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. And then if for any reason those don't work, then we'll go back to the drawing board and pick another 3.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
so once we find the house, right to the offer, get under contract.
Yes. Woo!
Oh, great. What's the next step for the buyer?
For the buyer, I think this is kind of where buyers get overwhelmed, because they don't realize that it's like actually 3 things happening at once. Because then lender starts working on the loan, and they're sending you all the disclosures and all the things to sign, and they're overwhelming you and asking you for W-2s, and they're asking you for bank statements, and they're asking you different stuff.
All the things.
But they're very nice and lovely about it. So it's nice.
Usually.
If you use the right lender, they are.
Correct.
And then you have the title company, who is the people that are going to, you know, do all the closing stuff and get you your deed and make sure everything goes smoothly. And they're getting you title commitment, and they're getting everything ready so you can actually transfer the home into your name. And then there's us, who we're now looking at inspection, and we're chasing title companies and lenders and the other agent, and making sure everybody's doing their job.
No shade.
No shade whatsoever. No shade whatsoever. It's just,
this is the reality.
Yes. As an agent, like, it's my job to make sure that we get to the closing table. Right. So I'm going to make sure everybody else is doing their job. Not because I don't think you're competent or you're capable of doing it, but because I just need to know.
Well, and as a side note, I mean, that's why who you work with is really important. You know, in the past couple years, my experience would be like relationships between agents were difficult because everyone was like running around like a chicken with their head cut off or their hair's on fire or something like that.
Right.
And so communication was difficult, even when you were under contract with the property on the buyer or the sell side. Now, I really do like the fact that listing agents, you know, on the buy side are being proactive. Like, hey, what did you think about the property? Hey, it's like, okay, good. We're communicating again. We're back to, back to how this is supposed to go. A phrase I heard recently that I really liked was, houses compete, agents collaborate.
Yes.
You know, buyers and sellers have to collaborate with one another. The houses, you know, with pictures and media and advertising, all that stuff, like, they can compete with one another. That's not what we're doing. We're we're in the collaboration business, not the competition business, which I really like.
Right. Yeah. And I think that goes back to like our code of ethics and everything. Like we're here to help each other kind of build this community and, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I love that.
Absolutely. So we're under contract. We're walking through all these processes. You know, something that, and you talked about the financial piece earlier, you know, earnest money is a thing. Can you tell us about earnest money real quick?
So earnest money is kind of like a deposit on the house.
Yep.
So it's typically about 1%.
Skin in the game, right?
Yes, absolutely. So it's just showing the seller, like, I'm actually serious about buying this house. So you go and you give it to typically the title company.
Right.
And you do need that in the bank. That needs to be liquid cash.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
that is a reality. And I think that's something that buyers don't understand is you need your earnest money. You need to be able to pay for your inspection. You know, those are the big two things that you're paying out front. But depending on the price of the home, it could be $6,000 that you're looking at.
Could be. Yeah, could be. Yeah. So the earnest money is really important. Again, that's skin in the game for, you know, your buyer, the buyer, letting them know, hey, yeah, we're in this. And then we, you know, we'll walk through the transaction. It will do an inspection. So inspection is really important, obviously, at this point. Not just for older homes either, for every home, because there's things that can break. You don't know. It's like buying a used car in some sense. Like you don't know the maintenance history. You don't know how often the brakes were done, how often the tires were changed, how often the oil was changed, you know, all these things. You know, has the air conditioner been serviced in the last like 17 years? I don't think so. So all those things are really important. So we have a good community of inspectors, people who have expertise in building and code and things like that. And they'll go through the property, kind of like fine tooth comb. They'll check all the things that they can see, and give you, you know, well, they won't even give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down. They'll just give you the facts.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So what are some limits on inspections that you've seen and that just buyers should be aware of?
I think one of the things that they don't tell you is as a buyer, when you get that inspection report, it's going to be terrifying.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
like you said, their job is to give you all the facts. So they're going to tell you every single thing they saw about the house.
Right.
And it's going to be like a 40-page report.
Could be, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, there's times where like people have been like, the guy didn't say there was this much wrong with the house. And it's like, well, it's a 40-year-old house. Like,
or 50 or 100 or you know
what
whatever,
I mean? Yeah. But like, it's a, you know, the age of the home, like it makes sense. Like these are small things.
Yeah.
Like you can fix half of this. You can do the caulking around the tub yourself. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of stuff that's not, let's look at typically I tell my buyers, look at the red items first.
Yep.
And if any of those are way too overwhelming, let's go.
Yeah.
It's not for you.
Yeah. And so, and you know, one thing, it can be a lot sometimes. The other thing that buyers have to be aware of when it comes to inspections is you can't see inside of walls.
Very true.
Right. There's some things interior, you know, like if you go to the doctor, right, they do a physical examination. It's usually exterior, you know, they're not like maybe they're taking a little bit of blood work, but if you have a blocked artery, maybe they can't see that, or you have some sort of internal issue, can't see that. So it's the same thing with houses. Sometimes there are problems that just can't be seen, can't be foreseen. And that's kind of the, you know, we have a thing in Colorado called caveat emptor, right? Which is buyer beware. That's the thing. So when you purchase a home, especially an older home, there could be those issues that you just have to be aware of and as a potential kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, Darlene, but for me, it's like I always like to give the worst case scenario for situations, because if I'm expecting that, or I at least have that in my mind, then I'm like, okay, well, if that happens, I'm not surprised.
Yes.
I'd rather not be surprised about those kinds of things.
Yes. Yeah, especially when we're working on inspection objection, which is where we tell the seller these are the things that we're requesting to be fixed or to be, you know, looked at. And I always tell my buyers they can say yes to all of it, to some of it, or to none of it.
Yep.
So if they say none, they say no, whatever. I already gave you $10,000 towards buying down the rate. Forget that.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
Is this a deal breaker?
Yeah.
You know, and then that's also a conversation that as agents we can have with one another, which is also a really nice part about this change in the market, because you can actually get the other agent on the phone and be like, hey, look, my buyer's terrified of this. If you can at least do these two things, like these are their top two, they'll move forward. Yeah. Especially when they're like, the seller's not going to do anything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
They've already dumped all this money.
Yeah. Yeah, and I actually love getting past the inspection process, because once that's done, I mean, we still have the appraisal, and that's a thing where, an independent third party person comes out, gives a valuation based on comparables and market conditions and things like that. And at this point, we're 2 years ago, we were seeing lower appraisals because of just the explosion in the market.
Yes.
So that we had to do these appraisal gaps and things like that. Nowadays, I don't think we're going to see that as much. We might see some like prices go down, and so the appraisals are kind of like following the market a little bit. That's potentially, again, subject to review. Let me do this real quick.
Yep.
Oh. Push this button again.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're back.
Yes.
Yeah, so we get through that appraisal process. Again, that's another place where you can have snags. But I think typically right now, I don't think we're going to see too much of that.
I don't think so.
Yeah, and so once we're past those two kind of hurdles, it's really, you still qualify for your loan.
Yes.
You have your insurance.
Yes.
Pretty good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Which, as a buyer, once you're under contract, do not go out and buy a car. Do not go out and get furniture. Do not go out and get any kind of credit.
Correct.
Don't, because then the lender's going to call me and be like, they did this, and then I'm going to have to call you and be like, you remember at the beginning of this when I told you
Not to do that thing.
not to do that thing?
You did the thing.
You did the thing. And because you did the thing, now we have to scramble and figure out how you can still get your loan.
Right.
Which we will do.
Yeah.
Right.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We always figure it out.
Problem solvers.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
how we roll.
Yes.
So we've got, all that stuff taken care of now.
Mm-hmm.
We're what we call clear to close.
Yes.
Right. This is from the lender.
Yes. Love
They're
those
saying
words.
everything's great to go. We're good to go. We're ready to rock and roll.
Yes.
Tell me about the closing process. What does that look like?
I think it's not as fabulous as people think it is,
Sure, yeah.
personally. Because I think when people think they're going to go buy this house, they're going to sign like this huge stack of papers and blah, blah. Usually, it's a lot of papers, it's a lot of signatures, but it's like really cool. And I like how intimate it kind of is, especially since COVID.
Yeah.
It's usually just you, the buyer, your agent, and the closing agent or the closer.
Yep.
So it's kind of nice because it's kind of intimate. We kind of get to
Yeah.
and be like, we did it, we got here.
It's a little anticlimactic, actually.
It is. I thought it was. When
Yeah.
I went to my first closing with my mom, I was like, this is it?
Yeah.
I was also 12.
Sure.
I was like, this is it, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. But, you get to do the cute pictures with the keys and
Yeah.
their little props and all that. It's really cool and it's a great feeling. And I think that's when the buyer is kind of I did this.
Mm-hmm.
I accomplished this. Mm-hmm. And for me, that's the moment where I'm like, I did my job.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did my job and I did it well.
It's kind of, I remember when I got married, you have the ceremony and it's all hype and fun and all that stuff. And you're done, you kiss the bride, walk down the aisle. You're in the, in the reception thing. And then you have to go sign the marriage license.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, just now it's official.
Yes. Yes.
Like
we forgot to sign mine, by the way, when I got married.
Gosh.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. The officiant had to come back.
Oh, that's funny. But it's kind of like that. It's like, we did all this other wild and crazy, very exciting stuff. Mm-hmm. And now we just signed the papers.
Yes.
And now it's official?
Now it's official.
Oh, okay. Well, then go record and all that stuff.
Yes.
But yeah, and then that's the cool part, I think, for the buyers is, hey, you've taken this step. And I think some people, just, we bought a house, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, yes, you did. Mm-hmm. But what you've really done is you've started a wealth creation journey.
Absolutely.
We're real estate agents, so we believe in home ownership. We believe in the power of, appreciation. We believe in the power of building equity and assets, right? And if you treat your house right, it can become a generational wealth building tool.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. How do you think about your home and kind of what your plans are for move forward? Because this is one of the things you talked about last time.
Yes.
Is you're interested in helping people build that generational wealth, especially in the Hispanic community.
Yes, absolutely. And I think housing is a great way to do it, especially in the community we live in. So my goal with my house is I want to own my home for 3 to 5 years. Then I want to get another one. Mm-hmm. And I want to do that every 3 to 5 years. Let's get another house and let's build that rental portfolio.
Yeah.
I'm very blessed where I grew up with 2 parents that have rental properties and I'm a licensed real estate agent. So I hope to be managing those properties myself, as much of a headache as that's going to be. But that is the goal.
Just pay somebody. It's fine.
No. Well, there's nothing wrong with paying somebody. Like sometimes management companies are necessary, but I feel like I have the tools and I have the knowledge to do it myself. So why wouldn't I? You know,
Does Elon Musk drive himself around?
I would.
He doesn't. He lets his Tesla do it. Right?
No, I know. No, I know what you mean, but like where I am right now, you know, it makes more sense.
It's valuable. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, and it's valuable knowledge too. Just to kind of learn that process and how it works and, you know, and I think it also keeps it human for me where it's not just money coming in.
Sure.
Like there's actually
you have like a connection, right, to the thing. Yeah. I get that.
Yeah, because that's what I love about like my parents, their tenants, like they helped me move. You know, they come over and they help me whenever something.
Was it part of the lease agreement they had?
Yeah, we sneak that in there. We sneak that in there, you know, must answer anytime we have a question or need help. No, but like we have this symbiotic relationship where it's like you take care of my house, I'll take care of you.
Yeah.
And that's what I love.
Yeah,
and
that's
I think
great.
and I would love to see more people accomplish that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? And to see more of that happening in the Springs because I hate to see when companies own homes.
Yeah.
You know, corporations owning homes is like not my favorite.
It's hard. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah.
It's tough. But it's I know why it's necessary.
Sure.
You know what I mean? As a real estate agent, I get it. But if more people in our community can own more homes and help people get into homes, let's do it.
Yeah, love that. Yeah. Love that so much. And for me, you know, I think about the financial goals that, you know, I think everybody wants to not have to work.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And, you know, my belief in like human potential is pretty high. Like not in our like moral potential because we're all kind of terrible at times. You know, like we can make some bad decisions, and you know, I'm grateful.
Never made a bad decision.
Never in your whole life, me either.
Never.
You know, but I'm also very optimistic about like people's creative power and like if they put their mind and their intention and their like, you know, desire to educate themselves like moving forward. Like I think most people can do well for themselves.
Absolutely.
I think that there are obviously a lot of like systemic barriers to that. There's lots of like, you know, cultural and historical things that make that harder for certain groups of people, whether it's race or, you know, socioeconomic status or whatever it would be. But I love the stories. Yes. I'm sure you do too, of people who come from those kind of backgrounds, whether it's a racial minority or a socioeconomic minority or a poor person or whatever it be. And they just like say, you know what, screw it. Like I'm going to learn, I'm going to educate myself. I'm going to begin to buy property. I'm going to use the internet. Like, man, the internet's so crazy when it comes to like just, I mean, we think about these people on like TikTok or Instagram. Like, what are they doing that's valuable? Well, they're doing something that's valuable because people pay them money for it, right? They're advertising, whatever it is, influence, that kind of thing. But if you can leverage those kinds of tools, technologies, like you can drag yourself with help and luck and some other things,
right,
into a really cool position to free yourself from, you know, bad times, which
Absolutely.
is cool. And, you know, and a lot of people that I follow, like on social media or the shorts that I watch on YouTube and things like that, it's like, yeah, people who are giving good advice and helping people to achieve, you know, financial literacy and then also like freedom, it's pretty sweet. And I'm glad we get to be a part of that.
Yeah. I think that's the best part of this job is at the end of the day, we get to be like, yeah, we helped you achieve this. And, you know, we're going to continue helping you leverage that. Yeah. You know, and I think that's the part of like, you know, the forever agent.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, at Berkshire, I think that's the coolest part is like, I didn't just help you with this one transaction, but I'm going to help you with your financial health throughout the rest of, you know, my career.
Yeah. And the cool thing is we get to be connected, right? Because I'm sure you have connections to wealth planners, financial advisors, insurance people. I mean, all the things, all the people that all the financial service professionals that are vital to helping people move forward. And that's, again, I think a cool part about and being a real estate agent is you're not just a real estate agent. You're kind of a hub of influence.
Yeah.
You know, we are influencers.
Yeah. In
however small or large a platform that we have. And I love that on the buyer side is because, hey, we get to be a valuable resource for you as a home buyer, obviously, because we have all these connections. But now as a home owner, now I can connect you to, hey, we had a Colorado hailstorm. Crap, I need a new roof. Like, who can I connect to? Well, here's this great roofer, or here's this great handyman, or here's this great person.
Right.
And I'm so grateful to be someone that can do that, you know?
Yeah. It's really cool.
Yeah.
It's when you think about it that way, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it makes it so much more human.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of transactional thinking sometimes. Yeah. It's like, hey, I just got to get this deal done and then just move on.
Right.
And that happens sometimes with people, you know, with buyers. Like my very first client, I won't say her name. But I've done my damnedest. Is that a cuss word? Sorry.
No,
Darndest.
you're darnest.
I've done my darndest to connect with her and to like reach out and make phone calls and that kinds of, and I've just never heard from her again.
Yeah.
It's been like almost 5 years.
Yeah.
That's disappointing, on my end, but I also know it's reality.
Right.
Like not every person is going to be, stay connected to you in the
Right.
way that you maybe would want.
Yeah.
But we still helped her find a place. She's still, living her dream of living out with her horses. And I'm super excited to have been a part of that.
Yeah.
The fact that she doesn't answer my phone calls, that's fine,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Ghosted. Yeah.
Welcome to dating in 2023.
No, thank you. Happily married for the rest of my life, I hope.
Happily divorced for 3.
So, well, I think that's a good wrap up. I think
so.
for today. Any last kind of buyer sentiment or thought you want to share?
I think as a buyer, don't be afraid to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to be like, this is scary. What do I do? Because that's our job. Our job is to be like Joshua said, we do this every day. And sometimes I think we forget that it is like super overwhelming and super scary. And we just, sometimes we're just so deep in it that we're like, you don't know what that means. Sorry.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to text us at 10 o'clock at night. If my phone's on silent, I will text you in the morning. So
I'll text you the next day.
yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying.
I understand that. Yeah.
Ask the questions.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you're bothering us because you're not. It's literally our job, and it's how we do our job well is by making sure that you are educated and that you are doing the best thing for yourself and that you're making an educated decision, not just a guess.
Yep.
So
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think on my end, I would say this market is interesting on the buy side. Look for opportunities.
Yeah.
Like let's look for opportunities, whether that's an investment property that you can get, and we'll coach you on making sure that it cash flows. That's really important. If it's your first time home, like we're going to do what we can to get you the best deal. That's still a win-win for everyone, because that's kind of the thing that I think about is we're going to crush these guys. And it's like, well, who wants to do business with someone that's the attitude?
right.
It's never my attitude. My attitude is always, hey, let's get a win-win for everybody. Maybe it's less of a win than the seller wants, or it's less of a win than the buyer wants, but it's something that everyone can feel good about moving forward and take that next step into the next phase of life that they're doing. So, well, everybody, this is Joshua and my wonderful co-host,
Darlene.
and this has been Tips and Quips and Tips.
Something like that.
Something like that.
We'll get it. We'll get it.
episode 2. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks you for watching, and I hope this was informative. Anything else?
Nope. See you guys next week.
All right. Blessings. Bye.